Hello and welcome back to Redirecting. Now, I know this is a story that many of you may have already seen, but I wanted to add a little bit of my own 2 cents to this story because we are seeing an increase in these occurrences, and I think our people are starting to get their eyes open more and more to the reality that we deal with in this country. More and more, their eyes are popping open because for a long time, many have been asleep. Unfortunately, some will still see these things and they will remain asleep because that is where they choose to be. But anyway, I'm talking about the story of the young woman who posted video of her mom confronting a classroom of students. And she was cursing at these students, and she was basically telling them that, look, if you put your hands on my daughter, if you say anything to her, if you tease her on social media, if you do anything to my daughter, then, and she made it very clear. She said, if you're over 18, I'm going to whoop your so-and-so, okay? This is what's going to go down. I'm letting you know I'm tired of it. And if you keep messing with her, this is what I am going to do. If you keep bullying my daughter, this is what I'm going to do. So now the girl has been suspended and her mom has been banned from coming to the school. Now, as I saw the teacher sitting there, of course, she's looking like very typical to me. The person who feels like the black woman is so threatening, even though she's defending her child, like most mothers do. Okay. Shoe on the other foot, the woman would be applauded, right? But in this case, she's banned from the school and her daughter suspended. Okay, now the boys that were bullying her daughter, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they were Caucasian. So here's the deal. They are sending us so many messages, and these messages are this. They are saying, even if your child is being done wrong and you try to defend your child, we're going to make you the bad guy. Because they ended up calling the cops on this mother. For me, I don't even see that as a reason to call the cops at all. Why were the cops called? She didn't put her hands on anyone. She just told them, if you do this, if you don't stop harassing my daughter, this is what I'm going to do. She said, it's amazing. She says, anybody over 18, I will F you up. That's what she said. Okay. This woman was trying to send a very strong message. And so right now, the Orange County Sheriff's Department is looking into safety concerns. The incident is being investigated. Okay, so listen. They say that her daughter was also sexually harassed. When you think about the fact that kids are being bullied and many of them are committing suicide and all kinds of things are happening, this mom did the best that she could to protect her child. She says, look, I don't want my daughter to be a statistic. I don't want my daughter to be one of those who ends up killing herself because she can't take the pressure. And so I'm going to make it known. I'm going to make it very clear that you're not going to do that to this one. So for the Sheriff's Department to even be investigating this, investigating what? Huh? So again, if you try to protect, you are going to be looked at as the aggressive one. Now, they did say that there were some actions against one of the young men for some of his actions against her. But apparently they don't take these situations serious enough. And this is why many times parents do step in. Parents step in because the school system, the police departments, nobody wants to step in on behalf of their child And so the parents feel the need to protect. That is a very, very natural thing to do, to want to protect your children, especially when this system that you're putting them in their hands is not doing it. Now, I've heard many such cases where they said the school is not obligated to protect your children. They're just there to teach them, not protect them. And so why don't you make parents sign a disclosure saying send your children at your own risk then? Why don't you tell them to send them at their own risk, since you're saying that you're not obligated to protect them? There's so much I can say about the school system and how they have these little rules in place. No obligation to protect, but yet you're going to put armed teachers in there. Teachers who are trained to kill students. And as many have stated, if they ever put this in force, even though most of your shooters are white, most of your victims will be black when teachers start pulling weapons out on students. This is why I agree with what Malcolm X said when he stated, only a fool would send their children to their enemies to be taught. Now, that is a quote from Malcolm X. That is not what I am saying. I am saying that I understand why he would say that. Now, listen, I've said that, made that statement or made that quote many times on this channel. And some of you take offense to it because you do have children in public school. That is not meant for you to take offense to. This is a statement that Malcolm X made. Many of us grew up in public school. Some of my older children started off in public school. Is not to be offended, to be taken offense to. We've got to stop being so sensitive. When I make certain statements, it's not aimed directly at you as an individual per se. It's a blanket statement that's being made. And we've got to stop being so sensitive when the truth is put out there. We fully understand that some people have to work and all kinds of things get in the way. And then some people say they can't afford to homeschool. And that's one thing that I can say I probably wouldn't agree with, because there are so many free resources out there to where I don't really see homeschool as a thing of affordability because of the free resources. I mean, there are a plethora of sites that provide free resources. So anyone who would want to commit themselves to homeschooling could afford it. As a matter of fact, I would even venture to say it's actually more affordable than public school, because you don't have to worry about trying to keep up with the Joneses, buying them school outfits, brand new outfits at the beginning of the year. The travel back and forth, unless they're going on a bus. I mean, there are so many different variables when you go to public school. The kids end up spending a lot of money on clothes and things of that nature. Whereas at home, they're going to be at home and they don't have to dress in the snazziest of the snazzy clothes, you see. And as far as food, now I do understand there are situations, and I've heard of these before, where some people said that their children go to school so that they can get a meal. Okay, that's a whole other conversation as well. This is why we also push and really advocate for becoming self-sufficient, trying to grow our own food and doing as much as we can, because when the system fails, we won't have any other choice. And so we can say right now that we can't afford to do this, or we don't have time to do that, and all of this other stuff. But what if situations or circumstances force these things on you, where you're forced to have to be able to feed your family without any type of government assistance, or you're forced to have to homeschool because of other reasons? This is the bigger picture that we need to look at, because at the end of the day, we are talking about protecting our children from a system that has told us time and time and time again that they can't stand us. And so this is why Malcolm X said only a fool would send their children to their enemies to be taught. Take no offense, family. It is what it is. I'm just trying to encourage you to look at what they are facing. Look at what they are faced with. I've known people who have sent their children to public school, and the children were so distraught and so afraid and so tormented by bullies and even teachers that were bullies, that the children begged to come out. And so we've got to look at this. I mean, we can come up with every excuse imaginable, but we've got to understand. I remember a story many, many years ago. There was a single mother who had a child, and she had experienced some things in public school. And this mother said, look, I'm not going to subject my child to this any longer. Fortunately, she worked at a place, which was a restaurant. She was a waitress. They allowed her to bring her daughter to work. And she sat there in one of the booths all day doing her schoolwork. And her mom was there. I mean, of course, this was a situation where the employer sympathized with her and helped her to make it happen. And I know that not everyone has that option, but I would explore every option possible and imaginable before counting out homeschool, because look what our children are being subjected to. They are being subjected to a system of indoctrination, that not only fills their minds and their heads with untruths, the miseducation of the Negro, but it also shows time and time again that they do not care about the education of our children. Look at the number of teachers that are calling the black students the N-word, treating them like they are less than other students, disrespecting them, even suggesting that they go after careers that are less desirable because they don't feel that they're capable of doing anything greater than what the teacher imagines. So instead of us taking offense to everything we hear someone say, look at the bigger picture. Look at your children. Look at what they are not getting. Look at the effects of this system on them. And you, as a parent, figure out what you can do to get them out of this. Everything is not about affordability. Some things are about just dedication and figuring out ways to make it happen. There are other situations where parents say, look, when I come home in the evening, I am going to homeschool my children when I come home in the evening. There are so many things that can be done, family. So many things, even if it boils down to asking a family member that is capable of doing this. When I look at Ben Carson's mom, she was illiterate, but she made her children read. She turned the television off and she made them read. Some parents won't even do that, but yet they will come with the excuses about what they can't afford to do when they won't even turn the television off. Our children are depending on us, and guess what? At some point, we're going to depend on them. When you look at the future generation and what they are up against, and if we are not preparing them for the future as we age, who's going to be there to help us through those years? Who? I'm grateful to be able to have my mom here with me. So grateful. It amazes me that we continue to go through these things in this system, and we continue to make excuses why we can't do any better on getting out of it. So my question to you, what if you no longer had a choice? What would you do then? We've got to give up that roll over and die mentality, because as you see, it's a war zone. Our children are being bullied. They're being miseducated. They're being mistreated, abused. All kinds of things are happening. And so what do we as parents do? Do we continue to sit back and say, well, what if you can't? Well, my question is, what if you had to? What do you do if you have to? So we need to start trying to figure out how to make things work, especially if it's going to be of benefit to our families. Because this thing that we continue to see, our children are being targeted. Police are being called on them when they are the victims in situations. Do we make progress, or do we continue to make excuses? That is what we are up against, family. Either make progress or make excuses. Family, it's time to redirect. Shalom. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.